I'm gonna record, just so I can make sure that I'm doing that right. Cool, thanks, Travis. Okay, cool. So let's keep on going. So, what we're going to be going through today is how to identify your skills and strength, mapping them from your classes, mapping skills to experience, how to find new skills if you feel like you might be missing something that is important for the type of role or internship that you're interested in, and then just how to use these resources and use other assessments to, again, identify what those things are. So, when it comes to identifying skills and strengths, knowing what you're good at and being able to identify them are important when you are planning to look for an internship or look for a full time role. Sometimes it helps to ask those big questions about how to respond to challenges and what others might say about you. These following prompts are going to help you start a skills inventory by reflecting on your habits and your past. So, this is where, like I said, it might be get a little more active for you all. So, when working on a team, what kinds of roles are you drawn to? Anyone can answer this. You can put it in the chat. You can say it out loud and unmute yourself. But when you're working on classroom projects or you're working with a team, what kind of roles do you find yourself drawn to? For me personally, I like working behind the scenes. I like going and I like right now when it comes to my job, we have a lot of project management. And so that's assigning people to things and ideating. So that's what I feel like I'm drawn to a lot. Does anyone want to say out loud or throw in the chat maybe like a recent project you worked on, kind of what role you feel like you're drawn to?
In my most recent school project, I jumped on one of the harder parts of the project. So that's what I'm drawn to, is the more difficult tasks, the challenges.
Okay, that's really good to know about yourself too. I think that's great. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else feel like anything they feel like they, find themselves drawn to when it comes to projects?
This is Travis. Usually I take the leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
So I get together and I say, what are you good at? What are you good at? And then we divide up the work. So that way it's manageable and that way it's more spread loaded. And then I also am the one who collects all of their stuff, their work that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turn it in for everybody. That way
Perfect.
we make sure that we have good material turning it in. So
And what I'm hearing from both of y'all, thanks for sharing, Travis, as well as project management, leadership, organization, communication in a way that is really specific to communicating with multi levels of a project. And that is great. Those are exactly what you all both shared. Those are like ways of thinking of your skills in a way that's from an experience that you already have. Anyone else feel like they want to share at all about like what position they feel like they're drawn to?
I know for me, I am usually the one that's organizing, always checking back
Mm,
the rubric,
mm,
contacting people, seeing what they need. So
mhm,
usually people call this like the mom of the
mhm,
crew because I'm
mhm,
the one that holds everyone together and
mhm,
holds them to task. But I wouldn't say it's like a leadership, more like an assistance.
mhm. That's a really good way to put it. I think assistance, like what I'm hearing is leadership, what I'm hearing is assistance. Um, and I think those are such great ways to reflect on like what you feel yourself drawn to when it comes to project, because everything that you all just shared, that's something that you can reappropriate to talk about. Any sort of role is going to ask for some sort of project management, some sort of working on a team, and reflecting on like what type of role you hold is a good way to kind of identify those. So thank you all for sharing. And the next one is, what would my friends say are my biggest strength? Let's have one person share this. Anyone want to share what your friends would say are your biggest strengths? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. Ooh, I think we got something in the chat. Let's see. I'm on time. Omar, thanks for saying. Timeliness, literally. Timeliness is a skill that literally you can put on your resume. Thinking of things that your friends would say about too are ways to kind of really reflect and identify. So timeliness, promptness, attention to detail, if you're a Virgo, things like that. So ways that you can kind of think of those things of what your friends would say. Let's see what else we got in the chat. I have a big heart. Perfect. Lisa, thanks for sharing that. That's equally as important. Caring, passion. I think that's all important stuff. So thank y'all for sharing that. And these are going to be other things. What else do we got? I love this. Tech wise. Ooh, I love that as well. Very proficient in technology. These are all such great things. And so in this sheet that I'm sharing, these are all the prompts that are going to be on there. So already you all who've shared, Oh, perfect. Thank you. Wade, honesty, readiness to learn and listen. Love, love, love that. Please, y'all keep using that chat. I love this. And this is on this sheet as well. When facing a challenging situation, what are my go-to skills? And I would love if y'all have anything, say it out loud. Feel free with this question, or put it in the chat. Anyone else have any things they would say with this as well? When facing a challenging situation, what are my go-to skills?
Asking questions.
Perfect.
That's usually what I do.
Perfect. Love this. Rationale. Thanks for sharing,
Thoroughness
Rebecca.
and attention to detail.
Attention to detail. Perfect. Compartmentalizing, prioritizing, getting different perspectives. Perfect. I think these are all great things. And then the last one is, what was the most successful project I ever took on and what made me successful? I would love to see if anyone has any of those things in the chat too. Like, what do you feel? It sounds like we already are kind of getting it, like different perspectives, compartmentalizing, taking on leadership roles. These are the things that make your project successful. And so what we're starting to see is, and this is just something that we're talking about for class projects, and these are things you don't even have had to have an internship or professional experience to speak to these skills. So regardless of whether or not you're a philosophy student, accounting major, the classes you're taking to complete your degree are helping you build these skills already. And the thing is just making sure we identify them. What's great too, though, is that you're gonna have that specific subject area though. So I work with a lot of students who are communication students. I do these exercises as well. What are you doing in your projects? What type of projects do you have? And specifically, that's going to be for communications. Sometimes when we're in assignments and exams and doing all that stuff, it's hard to, sort through these skills that you've acquired. So this is what we want to make sure y'all are doing. This exercise on this worksheet is going to help you translate your academic work into skills and strengths. So what it's going to call for is think about the biggest class projects you've completed last year, last quarter, and go through the process of reflecting on this assignment and inventory the skills you practice. To make this easier, we've listed a couple skills across the most common types of assignments. So you can see here, and we have a handout too that we have where how can you translate these projects that you've done in class? So research papers, presentations, group projects, creative projects. For a research paper, what you can list as a skill on your resume is research, writing, editing, data analysis. For a presentation that you've done, design, data visualization, writing, public speaking. For group projects, like you all have really, really greatly already identified, collaboration, project management, communication, and leadership. And then for those creative projects, for majors that might have more creative aspects, design, copywriting, content creation, storytelling. All these are things that you're already doing. And the thing you have to do is just translate it into the way that makes sense for a resume. And again, for this slide deck, you all will be able to have access to this. But these are just ways to start thinking about like how these skills can kind of translate. Anyone have any questions so far about anything at all?
Oh, I had a question.
Yes.
So I was told to like not put leadership on a resume because like it's kind of like abstract.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
So instead of saying leadership, I think that's something, especially like coming out of high school, it's so like you're used to having like that leadership. What I always like to do is look at what types of, if it's volunteer, if it's an organization you're a part of, just put it in your experience or projects and speak of it in a way that's exactly like it would be, as it would be a basically professional experience. The thing I always say with like leadership and volunteering, all you're really saying if you put it in a leadership or volunteer position section is you probably didn't get paid. And so what I always say is just map it into your experience, honestly. So that's a really good question. Some things you can do is if it's education based, if it's something that's real specific to DePaul, you can put it under your education. But I always say for leadership, probably just starting to put that in your experience section. Good question. Anyone have any other questions as we start to move on? This is great. I love that y'all are talking and asking questions. It makes this so much more fun. And so here's some more examples of these things. So again, it doesn't just stop at research papers, presentations. So lab activities, problem solving, data processing, research, time management for tech, coding, networking, troubleshooting, software development. for those data focused projects, statistics, modeling, data analysis, technical writing, data visualization. And for web projects, the big ones, content management, HTML, search engine optimization, UX designer testing. And again, this is stuff that is just from class projects that we've been talking about, which I think is great. The whole point of going to school, the whole point of taking these classes is so you have these skills and you don't even have to have had an internship at all to show that you can do this stuff. And so the next thing we're going to be doing is mapping those skills to experience. So maybe you've already had an internship. I keep talking about as if like no one's ever had an internship, but the truth is a lot of people have had an internship or have a part-time job that is related or not related to the field. Or maybe like you just asked that questionnaire, maybe you've been active in volunteer roles or student leadership opportunities. You think of all your career experience thus far as, you know, it could be unrelated, but it always is connected to kind of where you want to go. And I see something in the chat here. Oh, great. Thanks, Margie, for sharing that. Is that handout in the chat right there is how to format projects for your resume. So now that we've talked about classroom experience, let's kind of talk about how we can kind of connect those things and transferable skills. And so what this experience is going to be, the person who just asked about your leadership experience. So identify 4 of your most labor-intensive experience outside of homework. So what this means is a lot of the times I'll get a resume, I'll be in a advising appointment, and they'll be like, I don't have any experience. And what I'll say is, okay, what have you volunteered? What have you done on your on-campus job? What have you done with student involvement? And what I want you to do with this activity is list those skills that lists basically everything that you've done with that role. And so this can kind of start to get you started with that handout that Margie had just showed. This then start to get you started in how to format those things for a resume as if it's a professional experience because you have the same skills. And so does anyone want to talk through a volunteer experience that they've done before and share like what they did on that day? I know a lot of volunteering is like, I showed up, I moved some chairs, I sat at a table. Does anyone have a volunteer experience or an on-campus job that they want to like just talk through, like what's your day-to-day like with that role or that position?
So I spent a summer volunteering at an organization that I was in when I was in high school, and I wanted to volunteer to give back. And it was the whole summer with 60 children and I think 5 or 6 counselors, and I was the volunteer. And one of the things I wanted to make sure I do is build a connection with each of the children, because I felt like if those kids are going to be stuck with me for the summer, you know, at least they got to like me. Mm-hmm. And especially when times where children would get into an argument or a fight or anything like that, I would at least try to individually hear them out. Mm-hmm. So I tried to use skills that I guess would be like communication, empathy, and guidance to at least make sure like not only do I get the experience of, you know, helping children out, but at least they got a little bit of an adult guidance that, you know, didn't just dismiss their feelings or, you know, weren't just there just because they were being paid. You know, I chose to be there.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I thank you so much for sharing. That's a perfect way to kind of talk about what are you pulling out of that volunteer experience. And like you said, conflict management, organization, communication, working, you know, it sounds also like a big part of why you did that. And a part of like what you bring to it is also just like that empathy. And I think those are things that you can literally break down and say, worked with 60 plus students to build community and provide, you know, equitable and empathetic programming. That's something that you can put on your resume as like a professional experience. And I think it's like a really great way, a really good experience that you said. So thank you so much for sharing that. And as you can kind of see, these can all be very different types of roles. And so again, you'll have this worksheet here, but just like we just shared, reflect on that experience and just list 3 to 4 things that you feel like that you would, that you did in that position. And really emphasize the skills that you feel like you kind of drew from that. Anyone have any questions at all while we go on? Put them in the chat if you do, say them out loud if you'd like. So the reason why we're kind of talking about skills is, one, it's going to be good to just optimize your resume, but two, it's just good for a few other things. So during an internship search or job search, it's important to be aware of applicant tracking systems. So what those are, most companies, most organizations use a software that's going to scan through resumes and applicant materials before a real person looks at it, just to make sure they narrow it down. Because they're in doing this, they're searching by specific keywords. Usually whatever skills, qualification, and experience and qualities are most important for performing the job. So a big thing is, if you want to make it past that software, if you want to trick the computer, you'll need to include those important keywords on your resume. And this means that it's worth your time to identify that what the skills are in demand and find ways to make sure you either put them on your resume or you find ways to kind of gain those skills. And so another part of this worksheet is going to be spend 10 to 15 minutes searching for internships in your area of interest. Don't limit it to a specific location. Don't limit it to anything. Just jot down all the skills-based keywords you find in the descriptions. And then what I want you to do is circle or underline the skills you do have or don't have yet expertise in. And so the point of this as you're searching for roles is just to make sure you're aware of what they're looking for, what you have, and what you might need to just learn a little bit more about. Using these options you can identify ways you can build your knowledge, like I said, or identify which I didn't, let me make sure. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Margie, for sharing that too. And this is a great handout too. So ways that you can do this by either identifying the skills that you have in your classroom or previous experience, but other things you can do if you find like, oof, I'm really interested in this specific type of role, but I might not have this specific skill, is take a skills-based course at DePaul. Volunteer to take on a project for a nonprofit or small business like Weighted Shared. That's such an amazing experience that you gain from that. Design a personal or passion project that utilizes these skills. Something that we had a panel of copywriting professionals, and I asked specifically, I was like, does the experience that this person need to actually be something that is real, quote unquote? So can you do a project? Can you write a memo? Can you do things to show your skills that aren't necessarily used in a professional setting or by a client? And the answer is yes. And that usually goes across the board for any type of role that you're interested in. Take a LinkedIn Learning course on a topic. You have access to LinkedIn Learning as a current student at DePaul for free. So if you find that you're like, ooh, I don't know about this specific software, this specific type of thing, you can literally take a topic on that, and that's more than enough to get you started and get your foot in the door. Another thing too is really emphasizing just YouTube tutorials. If you need to, brush up on some skills in Photoshop, things of that sort, that's a way that you can do that. Yes, how does one sign up or find courses at DePaul? Good question. One thing's going to be looking at the course catalog, and so not limiting it by specific academic program or major. So what I usually recommend is, if you're looking for specific courses, checking out the course catalog specifically and by each program. And if you'd like, we can share some specific details on that as well, but I would recommend course catalog. And not limit it just to your academic program. And also checking in with your academic advisor just to see how those elective credits and things of that sort will map into your program. Personally, I went to grad school at DePaul. Something I really, really wanted was I wanted to take some creative writing courses, because that's just specifically something I was interested in. And I also wanted to take communication courses, but I majored in women and gender studies. That's not something that really makes sense for that. And what I did was I just made sure that these electives in these different programs, so I took a communications course, I took a course in the English department, and it also still mapped into my program. So there's ways that you can go and look at those specific courses and still gain that. If we have watched a lot of, so David, did that answer that question for you? Feel free to put it in the chat if it did. Thanks, David. And then another question, Dre, if we watch a lot of YouTube videos on a topic and have a lot of knowledge on it, would it count as a skill? No, put it on your resume. If you've watched it and you feel like you have a good knowledge of it, I think it's worth putting in on your resume as a skill. So yes, definitely do that. Did that answer that question? Cool. Okay. So the next thing is making a plan. And you all are already kind of actively thinking about this. Like, okay, what YouTube videos have I already watched? What classes have I already taken? What classes do I feel like I want to take in? want to take, and write that skill down, and then map out that plan of how you're going to upskill. So it might be getting those YouTube videos, thinking of those concrete skills that you've learned from that, put it on your resume. It might be thinking of that skill you want, getting a list of the courses in the course catalog for spring quarter that are offering that. And I think that's a great way to kind of start planning in that way. In addition to, like we already said, thinking of those projects that you've already done, thinking of the stuff you've done in classes, and reflecting on the skills that you've accumulated through any internship or professional experience, even if it's a service industry role, even if it's working in the restaurant industry, things of that sort. There's always skills to glean from that. And so Margie has shared some resources in this chat, which are really great, really useful. But on our career library, we have all of these handouts that are available. And like I said, this presentation is going to be available for you as well, just to kind of touch base and see how you can, again, take these resources, take those skills, things of that sort. And so another thing would be, if you're still like, I don't know what my skills are, I don't know what I feel like I'm leaning towards, things of that sort, assessments are really, really, really useful. So assessments are a way to, like someone had shared, I think Wade had shared before, empathy is a really big thing that they learned from that role, and empathy really guided how they worked with these children. Empathy is a skill that can also lead you to a lot of different career paths as well. And so these tests right here are going to be able to link you to those resources. And we have 2 minutes left, and I think we're done. Here are some resources again with the Career Center in terms of our advising, our virtual appointments. Everything is available to you all as current students and also when you graduate. So please utilize these resources, these handouts that Margie has put in the chat. Like I said, this presentation and the workbook that goes with it is going to be available for you all. And so this is just a little bit of information about our UIP courses. Our UIP courses are the ones that can go in tandem with any internship that you're doing, or just ways to kind of keep accountability on top of your job search, to just aid you in the job search if you're in it. But we have kind of ones that are all across the board. And so this is the specific internship course if you're looking to gain credit for experiential learning. And these are our skills labs that we have available, and that are all accessible on Handshake. We also have workshops available this quarter as well. So really we have so many things. Joining a career community, like I said, that's kind of how we model in the Career Center. So again, a lot of things. The Internship Plus program is how you can get money for an internship that is possibly unpaid or is unpaid. So applications are due February 28th. That's still open as well. Again, this presentation will be available for you all at the end. And again, can't overemphasize this career library, everything you would need. And thank y'all so much. I think I made it just on time. Does anyone have any questions at all about anything that they want to put in the chat real quick? Okay. I really appreciate you all sharing who shared. It's really nice when we can hear other people talk about the experiences and stuff that they have. And if you have any questions after this fest and things like that, all of us are taking advising appointments. Like I said, you don't have to have an advisor that's specific towards your major. It's really what you're interested in. So I really would encourage you all to look at our career communities on the website and see which advisor is a fit for you. We also have student ambassadors for each community as well. So if you want to talk to a current student who has equal knowledge when it comes to career advising, we also have students who are available too. So I think that's all I have. Thanks so much for listening and being active in this little Zoom world that we're in right now. And yeah, feel free to put questions in the chat if y'all have anything, but I think we're kind of set.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Good luck,
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just click on leave room to leave the session. It'll take you back to the main session.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, y'all.
Only a few people. Oh, wow. Adam, how did I see it before? How many people are in how I got this internship?
I just clicked on the breakout rooms pop up, and then gave me the number.
Yes, thank you. So,
I'm sorry. Was this where we came back to like after we left the session?
Yeah, I clicked on leave room and it took me back here. It didn't give me an option to move to the next session. So you might have a couple of us.